Once again, you find me at the inner circle of Regent's Park. Today, in the name of science. I wanted to see if I could ride at 100% of my FTP seated. You may or may not remember, but during my last FTP test, in the final 4 to 5 minutes, I got up out of the saddle and monstered it. And on the agenda today, Ed had scheduled 2 times 20 minutes at 100% of FTP. Therefore, it's a perfect opportunity to conduct an experiment. First interval, 20 minutes seated, 295 watts. 10 minutes recovery. Second interval, seated, 296 watts. So there you go. I should have been able to kind of ride at 100% for both efforts, but seated, I reckon it takes 4 to 5 watts off the FTP I recorded the other week. Science. Well, today's little experiment was fasted. I felt pretty good actually. I reckon the body is getting a bit better at utilising fat for fuel. It's time for a bit of work and of course the post-ride nutrition. In case you're wondering why I'm always up at Regent's Park, it really is this bad. And the lockdown hasn't even finished yet. Well, I've been neglecting the rollers a little bit the last 3 weeks, what with the decent weather and the outdoor riding, but that's 90 minutes tempo under the belt, a nice big block of 240 watts within all of that. Left-right balance 49.51, go figure. Now going to carb up quite heavily ahead of the activities tomorrow, Easter Sunday. Well, no kidding you, notwithstanding the fact I've had a very nice stretch of the abductor muscles, both sides are absolutely killing me. Look, I'm like an old, I'm not putting this on. I'm having to kind of ease myself up there. I guess when you're on the rollers, well, and if you haven't ridden them for a couple of weeks, you're working slightly different muscle groups, it would seem. So there we go. Weigh in pre-hour of power. There we go. And I've been fluctuating between 64 and 63.5 the last couple of weeks. Quite a few fasted rides, longer rides this week, so it's come down a tiny little bit, which is welcome. Don't want it to come down too much further. Gonna get my cornflakes and sugar on, but let's have a little look at London. Yeah, it's a bit nippy, but there's not very much wind, and that's a good thing. It's probably still likely to be quite windy up by the Velo Circuit. Now, because the hour of power is a longer, more intense training, plus I'm going to tag on a bit of zone 2 on the back end of it, I'm going to take down the cornflakes and sugar. Now, we're now in April, and therefore you can see that I'm not often consuming this, but definitely ahead of the longer Zwift climbing races, e.g. an hour and a half, 2.5 hours or so, I find that my energy levels are a lot better for having consumed this about an hour and a half before we start. Now, during the training, in the larger bottle here, I'm going to have the beta fuel. Now, the beta fuel has 80 grams of fast digesting carbohydrates, perfect for topping up the sugar in the blood, but also glycogen stores during the training and hopefully extending the window over which I can put down, bigger power, i.e. threshold power. And in the white bottle, it's just going to be the H2O. Well, all is not going to plan because look at this. It exploded. And furthermore, it exploded only about 150 meters after my rear tire went down. So there we go. Tubeless. Faultless. The anticipation of a big bang as everything realigns with the rim and our little bodge job. There we go. There we go.
old school warm-up.
Well, the sun is gradually coming out. Hour of power. Here we come. What's your tactic, Paul?
Hopefully the legs do something good.
Hopefully the legs do something good.
Yeah, not feeling too sharp, must be said.
No, both of us were saying we feel about 20 watts below the perceived effort, but there we go. I'm sure we'll warm up into it. Fingers crossed, eh? I went out measured, intent on a negative split. And I should add here that there's a fair bit of on-bike footage and power overlay. But stay tuned for a real treat, because Paul has a unique talent for being able to talk at threshold watts. And he draws on a veritable goldmine of tips as to how to stay on track during the hour of power, plus little frustrations, is sticky legs a thing, and general cycling wisdom. It was way too good to lose in the edit. So relax and enjoy a piglet on a road bike with a 42 cassette chirping away like grandma's budgerigar.
5 minutes down. Legs still very sticky. Trying to find some sort of rhythm, but obviously they're quite lumpy. A bit stressy with people. I just filmed this one lap. Currently average 3:33.
I took some encouragement from passing a TT bike, but what cycling giveth, it taketh, courtesy of a very fast moving yellow machine.
Leg status is dwindling. I seem to be changing gear, not only for the course, but it's either too sticky or too quick. Can't seem to get on a gear, although the course does not help that. I believe I spy the greater crested Lovett ahead.
Greater crested lovers indeed. I thought I was gliding around quite nicely, but as you'll see, Paul, he breezes past with a nonchalant wave and no doubt would have paused for a chat and a cup of tea. I invested a bit of power and got onto his wheel, but as you can see, the draft is real and it was damaging my average. So I eased to the side and then back a little bit and watched Paul gradually glide away. By comparison, I was blundering along like a wounded albatross.
be interested to see what the normalised is.
Well, with Paul shipping the watts at 39 minutes with a mere 321 average, bear in mind he weighs only 68 kilograms, well, I have been building from an average of 276 to 279. Not much of an investment, but a negative split I find good for the soul.
We're now well into the final 10 minutes. Feels like the first 5. The legs have been sticky all the way. On these sort of days when things are not quite firing, I personally find it good to keep the mind occupied with other, for me, numbers. Like here, you're doing laps, focus on one lap, focus on cornering, holding speed, power. Last 10-15 minutes, mostly been focusing on the average speed. It did drop down to 40.0k. Since legs are not there, I've been focusing on trying to hunker down. I would prefer to my position as aero, but maybe less like a brick. That might have led to less power, maybe more speed in the real world. So we're currently at 40.2, flashing between 0.1 and 0.2.
Sticky legs at 40 kmh. Give me some of those sticky legs, please, Paul. Bearing in mind he's not on a TT bike. By comparison, I was averaging 38 kilometers an hour. I personally find that I get better as time goes on and the legs and the blood warm to their task. Warm blood holds on to more oxygen and also the body acclimatises and finds a rhythm and confidence builds. So a little tip I can provide is that if you're testing or on a long climb and it feels just a little bit harder than you'd hoped for, well, just try to stay the right side of the red, and over time, hopefully you can find that you can just edge up the power a little. By the final 5 minutes, I reckon I've paced it about right, easing up the power but not much more to give. And with Paul still providing a nice internal dialogue, I was demonstrating, or shall we say, a less refined profile, honing in on 283 watts, and I hit it around here. And for the avoidance of any doubt, the word was bucket. Rhymes with...
Love it. Welcome to Bike Racing Without Mercy.
Yeah, absolutely ruined. How are you? How was your test?
Yeah, very hard, very sticky legs for out.
Sticky legs?
Sticky legs, and I think the course doesn't help sticky legs as well.
No.
Ups and downs.
Your cadence is disrupted a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, gear changes everywhere, trying to find the right gears.
But I think that's what makes it such a great fitness test, because you're up and down and up and down.
Yeah.
And it's not like being on a turbo or the inner circle.
Yes.
At Regent's Park.
What was your scores on the board?
282 watts.
282.
What about yours?
I think 320 was the last.
320, nice.
Yes, well done, sir.
Well, there's something about the hour of power, isn't there, Paul?
Yes, yes.
Very, very demanding, very challenging, very uplifting. No hiding place. I really quite like the challenge of it. Even though obviously it's 18 watts short of my vanity FTP.
Certainly does test the character.
It does a bit, yeah. Yeah. Well, what an afternoon, eh, Paul?
Very pleasant, yes.
And look, the swag, the baked swag is on the agenda. We'll have a little explore. Sweet chili chicken wrap, smoked tempeh and veg. Perfection. Brownie taste test time. There we go, look at that. Doesn't it look good? What's the verdict?
Very good.
Very good.
Lovely and soft.
Cakes for the climbers. Cheers, Paul. Always good to see you.
And you?
Till the next time. Nice work on the 320, 1 hour of power.
Yes, thank you.
Cheers.